more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. I am so grateful you're joining us this morning. And before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org. We're in the process of an Indiegogo campaign, which is a crowdfunding modality to raise money for Living Your Inspired Life to stay on the air here in Ventura County, to expand out to some other areas, as well as begin to build our live events and webinars and e-courses. So please go to livingyourinspiredlife.org, click on the Indiegogo campaign, and donate today. I am so grateful for the participation you give us that allows us to continue to do the good work and have the positive conversation that we get to have here every week. So with that said, I'm just in gratitude all the time when I get to do this show, Living Your Inspired Life. I want to welcome someone who's been on my radar for quite a while. I don't know if you know this, but I want to welcome Wendy Craig-Purcell. Wendy, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, Susan. Looking forward to our time together.
I am too. Now, the reason why you've been on my radar is because of a lot of the positive work that you have personally been doing, and then your community down in San Diego has been doing. And during the Awaken World Film Festival up in Santa Barbara this last year, I had the opportunity to go to one of the inspirational, oh my goodness, movies that you were monitoring, and I guess that's the right word, right, Wendy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that movie was called Every 3 Seconds, and I'm sure everybody can go online and check it out. But that movie, and then the conversation that happened afterwards, was so inspiring. I remember feeling like, wow, I'm not doing enough, and then thinking again, well, whatever little bit I can do is going to be enough.
Absolutely. And the whole point of that movie, and I think the whole point of social activism, is not to be thinking about the parts that we're not doing, but to be very consciously present to the things that we can do that fit with our passion and our talents and our life experience, and then feel good about the difference that we're making, and be open to making greater strides and looking at how we can make an even bigger difference, but always celebrating the good work that we've already done.
So I'm going to back up a bit, Wendy, because I jumped ahead because I was so thrilled that you were going to be here today. Wendy Craig-Purcell has been doing such awesome work as a spiritual leader, a world peace activist, a New Thought teacher, and evolutionary visionary person, I would say, Wendy. And part of why I wanted to jump in is because you, at your center, are doing this kind of social activism thing, because you're very involved in microlending, and I wanted to talk about that today for everybody so that people can learn what that is and begin to participate in other ways.
Well, microfinance is something that the Unity Center community is just really excited about, and I'm very personally committed to it. It is basically the idea of using small loans given as a loan to people who are struggling to improve their lives and who have an entrepreneurial spirit, people who have maybe a tiny little business idea, usually in developing third world countries, a small little business idea, but they don't have the means to even get started. And one of the people that's really at the center of bringing this whole idea of microfinance onto the global stage is Muhammad Yunus.
Yes.
And I was so touched when I learned about his work and felt that it really aligns with what I believe as a spiritual teacher and leader that we can do so much more if we are able to give people a hand up and not simply a hand out. When we give them a hand up, and microfinance really does that, when we give them a hand up, we're also saying, essentially, we believe in the power and the potential within you, and we want to help to cultivate that in you.
And part of why Dr. Muhammad Yunus developed this idea of microlending is because at the core of his, and he's an economist, at the core of his philosophy is that we can eradicate poverty. It's completely unnecessary to have it continue to outpicture on the planet.
That's right. And in order to do that, though, we do have to realize that not everybody's starting at the same starting line, and that giving people, leveling the playing field a little bit, giving people the opportunity to take, to get the things that they need so that they can build that small microfinance business and then pay that loan back is a very key piece of that.
Well, and when I was doing some research on this, we actually, there is Cal State, University of Cal State Channel Islands, a few years ago developed a business school that focuses on this kind of thing, and Dr. Muhammad Yunus was a sponsor of that business school here. And when I was researching that, the whole microlending thing, one of the things that caught my attention is that the idea of lending to the women that are in these impoverished communities, because they're the ones that really want to see their kids prosper and go to college and have a better life than what they have right now. And I thought that was fascinating.
That's absolutely true. And what they have found is that the women, because they are so committed to helping their children to become educated and create a much better life for themselves than the moms have had, they are, because they're so committed to that, they are so willing to work hard and to pay those loans back. And to the degree that they pay them back, then it's a demonstration of the success that they are enjoying, because their little micro enterprise has to be successful in order for them to generate some income to pay that loan back. But then they can borrow again and build on it. So it's this beautiful ladder, if you will, that's made available to them that wouldn't be without these small loans. So it's very exciting to me. It has huge potential.
And I like the idea because, on Living Your Inspired Life, we often talk about the law of circulation. And what you just described to me is that if I were to give to a small community, if I were to microlend, that money is not going to, it's going to come back to me. That loan will be paid back. And then I have the opportunity to give it out again to someone else or the same people. And same on the receiving side of these women or these groups that are receiving the loan. They have the opportunity to, once they pay it back, begin to receive another loan. And that's the whole law of circulation, right?
Right. And, there is so much, once you get into this topic of microfinance and the philosophy behind it, you begin to learn just how broad and far and deep it goes. As we started to become more involved in a relatively small way for a spiritual community, we learned of a financial institution by the name of Waco Credit, who's been around, I think, for 30 or 40 years. They began in the Netherlands, and they are a very well-funded organization, financial organization, that takes investment dollars and loans huge amounts of investment dollars out to microfinance organizations and banks in developing countries that then loan that money out to the small communities and circles of women. So this whole concept of microloans and microfinance is a very big idea with a lot of depth and substance behind it.
So, Wendy, say the name of that bank again, because I'd like to look into that for myself.
The name of it is Waco Credit, OIKO CREDIT.
Okay.
It's an opportunity for people who want to to invest money socially, who are social-minded, and they want to know that their dollars are doing really good and meaningful work. They can invest in Waco Credit. They get a small return, and their monies are used to help fund medium and large-sized microfinance banks in all over the world. It's well worth your research and investigation to know more about them. The Unity Center has invested a fair amount of our reserve in Waco Credit because we believe so strongly in supporting at that level as well.
Mm-hmm. And I love this idea because I'd much rather, instead of having my money sit in a savings account for, just for me, I would much rather have it be in a place where it is doing good work, because otherwise it's just sitting there.
That's right. And that was the decision the board of the Unity Center made. We said we want to be as much in alignment in every way that we can with our overarching missions and principles and vision. And this is one way to do that with our dollars.
So, Wendy, speak a little bit, if you would, for people that don't know what Unity is. It's part of the New Thought movement. Would you explain to people what Unity is in case they've never heard of it?
Sure. It is, in fact, part of the New Thought movement. It was founded in the late 1800s by a couple named Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and it began as a result of the physical healing that Myrtle Fillmore experienced. In her 40s, she was given 6 months to live. She was told she was dying of tuberculosis, and she sought out every kind of possible help that she could to heal herself. And part of that help, or in looking for help, she attended a lecture in which she heard an idea that was a completely different idea than she had ever heard before, an idea that helped her to begin to look at her body with new eyes, with the idea that there is innate intelligence and healing energy in her body, and that if she began to vision that and to affirm that, she might in fact heal herself. And so she used the power of imagery and visualization. Now, she may not have called it that. That's what she was doing. This was back in the late 1800s. And in a period of 2 years, she completely healed herself from tuberculosis. She lived to be in her mid-80s.
Wow.
Out of that work, or out of that healing, came the practice of prayer that is at the heart of Unity. And then people they gravitated to her and to her husband and to these teachings and ideas because they too wanted to change their life. And so Unity is a positive path to spiritual living, and it is about using the conscious mind and the open heart to heal oneself and to grow and develop spiritually and to make a contribution into the world.
So once again, I'm hearing you say it's not just about what am I getting out of it. It's also about making sure that you circulate what you've been receiving as part of your spiritual practice, if you will.
Most definitely. I think it's a both and. And truthfully, most people who come into a New Thought community or a spiritual teaching, such as Science of Mind or Unity, usually come in because there's something in their life that isn't working. Maybe a relationship or a prosperity challenge, or they feel empty inside or sad, or just something's not working, and they're looking for help. They're looking for an answer. So most people come in very much needing to and wanting to work on themselves individually so that they can change their lives for the better. And these teachings absolutely, when practiced, do allow one to do that. However, that's not the be-all and end-all, that the natural evolution of that personal growth and that personal healing is then an open heart that really wants to look out around oneself at the very real issues and hurts in the world with a mind and a heart to what can I do to help make a positive difference in a global sense, starting right where I am.
And I love that, and it's starting right where I am. I think so many people think, well, a little later in my life I can do that once I've saved money or once I've done that. But starting right where we are, we can always begin to make a difference in someone else's life.
That's right. That's right.
I love that part. So, Wendy, you have also written a book,
I have.
which is called Ask Yourself This. Now, what led you to write that book? And then would you share with our listeners what it's about?
Sure. What led me to write the book is I have a passion for the power of the question. So often, especially when we're young and going to school, we are encouraged to study to get the right answers.
Yeah.
And while right answers have their place in the experience of life and the journey of life and of growing, we very often have to be sure we're asking ourselves the right questions first, because the question itself is the doorway through which the answer comes. And so many of the good things that have happened in my life have happened as a result of me being willing to sit and be quiet and reflective and to ask deep and probing questions and be willing to sit with a welcoming heart for answers that come not just from my head, but come from my gut, my intuition, from the divine intelligence of the universe, if you will. And so I have taught this concept quite a bit throughout the years in my work as a minister. And my congregation was after me to put it together in the form of a book. And so I did. And the book is divided into chapters with various categories and suggested questions to ask within those categories. And it doesn't purport to give you the answers, but really encourages you to explore the questions, because the answers that are important for you, you will find within yourself if you're willing to ask the question.
And those are individual answers. It's not going to be like an answer that fits everybody.
Correct.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
And it's not a pass or fail graded by somebody external. It's your life will tell you whether you're answering the questions honestly for yourself or not.
Okay, so I got a question for you, Wendy. What do you do when you ask a question and you really don't like the answer?
Well, that's an excellent question.
I just got to say, because I'm a redhead, and for me, when I get those answers that I don't like, I gotta stomp around and yell and scream and be upset.
That's okay. In fact, I will often say to my congregation when I'm teaching this particular concept that, sometimes you're going to know you got the right answer because you do have some resistance to it. It feels like it's too big, or it's scary, or it's asking you to do something that you're not quite sure you know how to yet. And I'm also very practical, and so I believe that if we get an answer that really does give us quite a charge, there's nothing wrong with being willing to authentically sit and ask that question again over a period of time and just check to see if we keep getting that same kind of answer. And if we do, then I think we need to do something about that. It doesn't mean that whatever that answer is, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to jump right into it or that we have to do all of it all at once. But it does mean that we need to be willing to take a look at that answer, and almost as if we were putting it in our hands and holding it out in front of us to look at it, and to say to it, I give you permission to exist as a possibility in my life right now. And while I might be afraid of you, or I might feel angst over you, or I might feel totally confused, I don't know what to do about you, I'm not going to push you aside. I'm going to put you out where I can see you, and in time I'll know what my next right step is.
Oh my gosh. Actually, that, as you're describing that actually feels like that's something I could do.
Good.
And I just got to share this. I was having a conversation with one of the Living Your Inspired Life team members about this Indiegogo campaign that we're participating in. And there was this place of resistance within me. And she kept saying, well, why not? Well, why not? And I finally had to say, because I don't want to. And then once she backed off, then I could sit down and go, so why not, Susan? Really? Why not? And then there was space for me to go, okay, I guess I can do it. Why not?
See? And isn't it interesting? Right before the show, we were chatting just a little bit, and you mentioned to me the Indiegogo campaign.
Yes.
And I said to you, now, if that's not synchronicity, my son Jonathan works for Indiegogo. So I think that maybe there's a little bit of a message in here for you, Susan. I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Please, Wendy, give me the answer. Give me the answer.
No. I wouldn't presume to know, but I think you do.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, and that's what this is the grace of God, if you will, I guess. The gift the universe gives us in every moment is to check in with ourselves and say, really, is this really what I want? Really, do I want to be in resistance, or do I want to be open-hearted and loving? Or really, do I want to just be all about me, mine, and mine? Or do I want to open up and see where I can serve, whether it's my family member, my neighbor, my larger community? And it is about really checking in as much as possible, which sounds like your book, Ask Yourself This, invites us to do all the time.
It does.
So you're listening to Living Your Inspired Life. I'm talking to Wendy Craig-Purcell. She's a Unity minister, but more than that, she is part of this evolutionary curve that we are experiencing into this place of supporting each and every person here on the planet. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back with Wendy. This is Susan Burrell from Living Your Inspired Life. I always find it easier and more fun to expand my life by being connected to open-hearted, like-minded people committed to being on the same path I am. If you feel the same way, I suggest you visit a Center for Spiritual Living. There are wonderful communities in Ventura, Ojai, Santa Barbara, Oxnard, Pleasant Valley, Camarillo, and Westlake Village. You'll find terrific people, great information, and more tools to help you live the life you were born to live. So go to csl.org to find a center near you. That's csl.org for a center near you. Welcome back to Living Your Inspired Life. I'm Susan Burrell. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And Living Your Inspired Life, we are currently involved in an Indiegogo campaign, which is a crowdfunding application that in order for us to raise money so we can, A, stay on the air, wouldn't that be lovely, and then move and expand into other areas, other counties, Yahoo, and also begin to do our other events and e-courses and things like that. So I invite you to go to livingyourinspiredlife.org. And besides looking at all the great conversations we've had over the years, go to the Indiegogo campaign banner and donate today. We highly need your support. We get your love over the airwaves, but we need some financial well-being to continue to do the work that we do so that we can really co-create a world that works for everyone. So today I am having a conversation with Wendy Craig-Purcell, who is a visionary and a social activist and a spiritual leader. She's a Unity minister down in San Diego. And Wendy, thanks again, because what your community is doing through microfinancing, I think, has huge impact in how the rest of the world begins to open up and realize that we are all interconnected, and how I help one certainly does circle back and support me in my life.
That's right. And the microfinance work that we do is also connected with the fair trade work that we do. A number of years ago, we decided to shift our focus. We have a bookstore in our spiritual community, and as we became much more aware that people were reading books on their electronic devices, and as we were realizing that we also wanted to be as green as we could be, that we wanted to support people using e-books and reading their books that way, we decided to shift our focus from maintaining a beautiful bookstore into supporting something that we know can make a real difference in the lives of real people, and that was to turn our bookstore into a fair trade boutique.
Oh.
So we now have at the Unity Center one of the largest fair trade boutiques in all of Southern California. It's truly, truly beautiful. And in our fair trade boutique, we have handmade items from all over the world that are made by usually women, impoverished women, who oftentimes will get a microfinance loan, and they use those loans to buy materials and products to make, whether it's jewelry or scarves or beautiful home decor items or so forth. And then those items are bought by usually wholesalers that are Fair Trade Federated approved, that will buy these beautiful items, and then we purchase them to sell in our partner's Fair Trade Boutique. And then a portion of the proceeds from those sales are what we use then to create the capital for the loans that we make for the work that we do in Peru. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. But one of the things about the Fair Trade Boutique that we have at the center is not only do we know that we are directly helping the women and sometimes children and men who make these products, because we are purchasing them at a fair trade. Not only are we helping those individuals, but we are also educating our community around what fair trade is, that these are items that are bought at a fair, livable wage for the people that are producing them, wherever they're producing them, that they're done in an environmentally friendly way, that there's no child labor that's being used, on all of those kinds of things. So it's an educational opportunity, which I think is very, very important, because part of the way that we help one another to create a world that works for everyone with no one and nothing left behind is we have to get informed. We have to know what happens when we buy products. How are we voting with our dollars? What difference are we making in the world? Are we helping to create a more sustainable world, a more just and fair world? Or are we, out of ignorance, doing just the opposite? So our boutique is also an educational center.
Next time I'm down in San Diego, I'm going to come there. I get fair trade catalogs around Christmas time, and I always find unique gifts there that I feel good about buying and giving, because I'm supporting an artisan, and it is a fair price, and they're unique. I love that part. So what could you recommend, Wendy, for the people, those of us that are here up in the Ventura County area, that we could do in terms of fair trade to become a little more aware and practicing that?
Very, very easy. Right at your fingertips on the internet. Google fair trade. You can go to the Fair Trade Federation website, and you can learn about the very specific things that are involved in a product receiving the very prestigious and hard to come by designation of fair trade. Not every single handmade item is a fair trade item. So educating oneself on what it really means when something is fair trade. For example, we opened our cafe serves only fair trade, organically grown, shade-grown coffee with the fair trade symbol on it. So anyway. That's
so funny, because I was just going to say, I know about fair trade coffee. I buy that.
Good. That's excellent. and just a person's willingness to learn more, and then when we learn more, we're more informed and we'll make better choices. You can also, there are a lot of fair trade stores that are e-stores. So you don't have to have one in your community. You can look online and see beautiful products and consider purchasing. Our center actually is devoted to or committed to creating a fair trade Sunday. We've done it now for 2 years. We're working with the National Fair Trade Federation to try to get some national support for this, just like we have what is called a Black Thursday and Small Business Saturday and Cyber Monday, all around Thanksgiving.
Right.
People go and they hit the stores and they buy all those products. Well, we want to create a national Fair Trade Sunday, where people are encouraged, whether it's online, to go find a fair trade boutique that they can purchase their Christmas gifts through, or to find a fair trade store in their community, so that not only are we helping through our purchases, but we're also elevating the awareness of our people here to what fair trade is and how it can help shift and create a more just world for people financially.
Wendy, I want you to keep me in the loop on that, because if that happens, I want to promote it because I love that idea.
Beautiful, I will.
I'm one of those people that avoids all that Black Friday, whatever it is, stuff. It just kind of makes me a little ill when I think about it.
Me too.
But that is something I could get behind. And there's this idea, as you were speaking about fair trade, it is about, I just want to restate it again for people that are listening and haven't really understood this, even though you may be seeing, the label on your coffee at when you go to a store. But it is about really supporting other people in their communities to have a sustainable life, not living on the edge of poverty, but getting paid a fair wage for whether it's art products or whatever it is that they're doing, whatever they're growing, and so that it's sustainable, not getting let me see. We kind of in America have this idea that if I can get it for cheap, it's better. But really, if you get it for cheap, it's not better for the people that are making the product. It's just better for you. So do you want to be so egocentric that you're getting it for cheap so you can feel great about the sale you got? Or do you want to begin to really comprehend that we're all connected here on planet Earth? And so if someone's suffering on the other side of the planet or next door to you, that causes your suffering. It will eventually catch up with you. So why not begin to start small, but begin with practices that support other human beings in having a sustainable life? Yeah?
Beautifully said. I applaud you for the courage to speak that. That's truly, it is. I talk all the time about spiritual maturity and spiritual evolution, and it does. It's not just about meditating. It is also about looking very deeply into how one lives one's life, what lifestyle choices we are making, and recognizing that we absolutely every single day are making a huge impact on our world. Some of that impact is completely unconscious. As a person who is wanting to grow and evolve spiritually, we have to be willing to become better informed and educated around the impact that our actions have, whether we're talking about the environment and sustainability, or we're talking about issues of poverty. Whatever the issues are, we've got to be willing to look at how we might be contributing, and then be willing to say, what are the changes that I'm going to start making in my life? Whether it is to buy products that are more environmentally friendly, whether it is to shift some of the purchases I make for gifts and have them be fair trade items, whether it is to invest more in a more socially responsible way. This is the out-picturing, I believe, of what happens when one begins to grow spiritually and to become a person that's committed to living a more ethical life. Ethical not just for oneself, but
Right.
for the human family.
Right. And I want to invite people, because this is, I always speak from my personal experience, because that's really the only thing I can talk from. And if I've learned something, oh boy, isn't that great? So I'll share it. And I know there's people out there going, yeah, but I don't want to, here's what was coming up when you were speaking, Wendy. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to get something for nothing. And I mean, there's so many, that's what fair trade is to me, is the individual who's making these items or creating this product needs to be paid their fair wage. And I know there's a lot of people out there right now listening that have a job where they are probably kvetching with their friends at coffee about how they don't get paid their fair value, or they're not, they needed to have that promotion that didn't happen and how come. And, but if we begin, if that's going on in your life, hello, I'm raising my hand a little bit, but if that's going on in our lives, then to me, it's time to go, okay, so if I am having a hard time affecting that kind of change in my life, how is it affecting other people in other places when they don't even get a living wage like we get to have here? We have such privilege here in our country. So I just want to encourage you, if you're experiencing something where you think you're not getting paid your value, again, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. If I feel I'm not getting paid my value, then what is it I can do besides, stomping my feet to begin to open up that circumstance, those infinite possibilities, and begin to see that I am valuable. And these people that are participating in fair trade, like you said, Wendy, they work very hard to get certified as a fair trade artist. It takes a lot of courage to stand up for yourself and say, I deserve to be paid. I deserve to be paid. A, I deserve to be paid, and B, I deserve to be paid well.
Susan, we're talking about very different yardsticks, really. When we're talking about the yardstick and the starting line, if you will, of people many of the artisans who are making the kinds of products we're talking about, it's a very different yardstick and a very different starting point than what we have here in our country or in the developed world, if you will. And it's not until a person really begins to travel and spend time in some of these other places and begins to really see the very real differences, that then one's heart is open and one's eyes are open in a very real and very visceral way, where it can become much easier, and you do begin then to realize, wait a minute, maybe I don't have everything that I want or that I think I deserve here, but I still have so much more opportunity and so many more safety nets here than the vast majority of the rest of the world have.
Yeah. True that, as my son would say. True that. Let's talk about then what you guys are doing down at Unity in the San Diego area, because you are now taking excursions, taking people to Peru.
Well, we're doing our fourth or fifth Travel with a Purpose trip. We call it Travel with a Purpose, Adventure, Culture, and Sacred Service. And what we have been doing is taking groups of people to, the most recent ones are to Peru, and we work in the rural community outside of Cusco, which is the second largest city in Peru, very impoverished area. We found an NGO through a lot of research time and effort that we could partner with there, and this NGO works within some of these impoverished communities to assess what the needs are based on what the community says the needs are. And they work on an educational level, they work on a health level, but they also work on an economic level. And we come in on the economic piece of it. They were willing to partner with us in a unique way, and that was they had found by the community members themselves that one of the very effective things that would work in these communities to help these families lift themselves out of poverty was if they could extend their growing season and be able to sell some of their crops at market. And the way to extend their growing season is to build very modest greenhouses, not the kinds of greenhouses we think of here in the U.S. These are adobe brick greenhouses that are very simple in their construction with plastic like visqueen roofs. And what these greenhouses allow for is the growing of a cash crop, and the cash crop that seems to work very well for them are roses. They sell lots and lots of roses to Cusco, to the capital of Lima, to Ecuador for a lot of the different festivals that are used in these countries that use roses. And so by being able to grow beautiful roses in these greenhouses, they're able to make a profit and put that money back into improving their individual lives, their community lives, and so forth. And so the organization that we've partnered with has been working with communities and university groups to build these greenhouses. But when I found them, I said, okay, I'm in support of this. I'd love to bring a group of people down to physically help do the work. However, I don't want to give you the money. I want to loan you the money. And I want, through the sale of the roses, I want that loan to be repaid. And when it is, then I'll give it back to you again to fund another greenhouse and so forth. And through a lot of conversation, figuring out all the details of how we would be able to do this, our partner said, yes, we're willing to give it a try. Well, it's proven to be a very successful model because now these greenhouses that we build alongside and with the community members, those community members feel a completely elevated sense of pride because it's not a handout. All we're doing is giving them a hand up and a chance to build this thing, and then it gets paid back. And so it's beautiful, and I take people down there. It's definitely not an excursion, Susan. It's a lot of hard work. We're at 12,000 feet, lifting 2,000, a minimum of 2,000 30-pound adobe bricks, and building them building the greenhouse alongside the community members. And then we do some sightseeing. We see Machu Picchu, and we do stuff like that, which is a lot of fun. But it's a lot of hard work, but it is so rewarding because we really get to see the difference that we can help make, and we actually leave transformed. We feel like we've gained so much. And the greenhouses, that money that we loan is in large part the profit that's made from all the fair trade items we sell. So it's this beautiful circle that we just feel really good about.
So how many years have you done this, Wendy?
I think this will be the 5th or the 6th year now.
Okay.
Our next trip is in June of 2016.
Oh, maybe I could get on board for that.
We'd love to have you.
2016. So so you're not going every single year, you're going like every other year?
We were going every year for a few years, and then this year we decided to take a break. We actually want to find a few other countries where we can do completely different kinds of projects, but still with the model of we want to be able to take a small group of people that will physically do work that the community needs done alongside the community, and it's got to be with a microfinance loan. We don't care what we're building. We don't care if it's a classroom or a community center or an oven or a greenhouse. That's immaterial to us. But that it is a hand up, not a hand out, and that we have to work hard and get really integrated into the culture while we're there.
So how long does it take to build a greenhouse down there?
From start to finish, the bricks are already made before we get there. They're not where they need to be, so we have to carry them, which in itself is quite a bit of physical work. But it's done within 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah, this is simple construction. On our website, we've got videos of the work that we do, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, but a lot of fun and very rewarding. It's truly life-changing. We've taken some young people, and high school age and college age, and it really changes their worldview. They come back so different, so different.
And so, Wendy, tell everybody the website so they can go and check it out.
If you go to the unitycenter.org, or no, the unitycenter.net, I should know my website, the unitycenter.net, and look for Travel with a Purpose. You'll see all the different information about it. And then you can also go to our WordPress travel log called Travel with a Purpose WordPress, and you'll find the Unity Center's program.
Awesome. Now, I have a question for you because we've been talking about doing stuff out of our countries, microlending to people that live in other countries. Now, my question is, since you have a book called Ask Yourself This, why are we doing that kind of work here in America? And if not, why do you think that is? Because I talk to lots of people that are so excited about the project they're doing outside of the States?
You know, and that is a question that certainly we get raised quite a bit as well. And the reality is microfinance doesn't work the same way here that it does in developing countries, in large part because to do anything here requires a lot more to even get started than it does in a developing country. Additionally, we have so many more resources and so many more safety nets that the motivation doesn't seem to be the same as well. It's not that there aren't some models. There are some models, but they're not nearly as successful and truly life-changing as the ones that you will see in developing countries. There's plenty of work that we can do here at home. I don't think it has to be an either-or. It can be a both end. But to me, Susan, I learned something. I've been privileged to spend considerable time on 3 different occasions with His Holiness the Dalai Lama through the work that I've done with the Association for Global New Thought. And at one of our gatherings, a young person asked His Holiness, "What can I do to help change the world?" And His Holiness gave a very brief answer, and the end of his answer was this: travel and make friends. And what he was talking about was not, taking a cruise to the Bahamas. Not that there's anything wrong with cruises, but he wasn't talking about that kind of travel. He was talking about the kind of travel where you get out of your own culture and you struggle a little bit. You struggle with different customs. You struggle a little bit with language. You struggle with perhaps some of the physical inconveniences or difficulties in developing or less developed countries. And you allow yourself to meet other people as true, authentic, vulnerable brothers and sisters. And when you do that, you cannot help but begin to have a different, broader, more inclusive worldview. You're not going to get that traveling as an American to another part of the U.S. I'm proud to be an American, and I love our country. But I think that I can be a better citizen here if I have a broader, more real worldview that informs the way I live here and allows me to help those not so fortunate. I'm going to agree with you on that too, Wendy, because I've been traveling more the last few years, and my perspective, it has just grown. And I just recently got back from another trip, and it was more for leisure, but I was with an individual who'd never traveled before. And it was interesting to see how she was seeing this brand new country for her, and her reaction to it and everything. It was fascinating to watch somebody who had never really traveled. And by the end of the trip, the transformation she had undergone because of being out of her own comfort zone and her own culture and everything. It was wonderful to witness. I think he was very wise when he said, "You want to make a difference in the world, travel and make friends."
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense to me. So we've got another, maybe 5 more minutes to have continue this conversation. What else do we want everybody that's listening to know about?
I feel guided to share a thought that I teach about in my book, because I think it just feels like maybe it would be helpful here. There's a concept that I learned from an older man a number of years ago when I was struggling with a particular situation in my ministry. I was trying to make a decision on two possible things that were before us. And one was clearly the right and better choice, but it was fraught with a lot of problems, not the least of which carried a big price tag.
Mm-hmm.
And this wise man said to me, "Wendy, don't take problem solving into decision making."
Okay, wait a minute. I just lost. My brain just did a somersault flip flop. Don't take problem solving into decision making. Isn't that what we're supposed to do, Wendy?
No. Don't take problem solving into decision making. He said to me, "Make the decision on what is the highest and the best decision. Then figure out how you're going to solve the problem. But if you take trying to solve all the problems first into the making the decision, you will either vacillate back and forth, or you will exhaust all of your mental and creative energy trying to figure out all of the how before you've clearly made a decision on the what. If you can separate in your mind those two things, problem solving from decision making, and going back to part of what I was talking about earlier, sit quietly with the question, what is the highest and best decision? What does my intuition tell me? What does my heart tell me? What does my gut tell me? And be with that answer, separate from figuring out how you're going to make it happen. What is the what that is the most important? Then, when you've gotten clear on that, then you can use all that freed up energy and mental capacity and imagination and creativity and resources to get to work at solving the very real problems that might come as a result of that decision. But you make the decision based on the merits of the decision, and then you figure out how to solve the problem.
Boy, it sounds easy to do, Wendy. It does. And I totally comprehend that. I have team members on Living Your Inspired Life. As we're doing the Indiegogo thing, there's been the conversation of how, and I'm like, no, let's get a little bit higher perspective. And actually, when somebody I've had on the show, his name is Timber Hawkeye. He talks about zooming out. Zoom out so you can see the whole picture. Right. Let's zoom out. Let's look at the higher perspective and really see what is it we really want to do. Right. And then we can figure out how.
What you do. Right.
Right. That makes a lot of sense to me. Hard to do sometimes when you're working in groups, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
But then we have the opportunity when we're working in groups to turn that into a teachable moment, because it is a practice that very few people do, and yet when people are willing to give it a try, it can be truly life transformative.
Yeah, it's true, because so many of us have been trained to find the solution first, and if they begin to glean what the solution is, they want to take the fast track right to that end point, instead of zooming out and seeing if there's other things that need to be or need to happen or need to be expressed that are larger than where that end point is, that solution that you think you've already uncovered.
That's right. It's being willing to have the 30,000-foot view.
Wow. I got a little dizzy when you said 30,000 feet. Wendy, I've been talking to Wendy Craig-Purcell. She is an author of the book that's called Ask Yourself This, but she's also a New Thought teacher and an evolutionary visionary. And I invite everybody to go to, Wendy, say the website again.
theunitycenter.net.
And check out what Wendy's doing down in her community and be inspired. And, go to the Fair Trade Federation online and check out what you can begin to do in your life currently right now. And one more time, I just want to tap on this. Living Your Inspired Life is looking to expand beyond our current quote-unquote borders. And so we're running an Indiegogo campaign. You can go to livingyourinspiredlife.org, click on the Indiegogo banner, and see what we're doing, what we're all about, and donate. And when you donate, there's going to be some awesome choices of gifts that you get to have just by making a donation to Living Your Inspired Life. See, that's the law of circulation again, everybody. As I give, I do receive. So I encourage you, livingyourinspiredlife.org. Go there and when you're there, check out some of the amazing conversations and inspirational practices that we have on the site. So, Wendy, thanks again for joining me and just doing this lovely fluid dance with me today. I so greatly appreciate not only your time, but the value and the energy and the consciousness you bring to the planet. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. It was a lot of fun, Susan.
Yeah. And I'm going to finish with, and so it is, namaste.